Welcome to more Gran Turismo Sport type videos, maybe. At least one video, this video, because this video is essentially going to be what I use to see if at this time it's worth giving PD my money. And I say my kind of relative because y'all have donated enough money on library where I can just straight up get GG Sport now. And I very much thank y'all for that. That's incredible. Depending on how much the library currency is worth day by day, I have up to about $60 of donations so far, and that's incredible. I very much thank y'all for that, and if y'all want me to get GT Sport, no matter how good or bad the game is at this current point, if enough of y'all want it, I'll get it. Just as of now, the majority of donations I've gotten recently is on Drive Club videos, so I would definitely do Drive Club videos in the future because I've always said I would. I'll do Drive Club more as it ends because there's nothing really left to do in the game, but I may as well still do videos on it when the online ends. But the online ends about a month or so from now, and you already can't do challenges at this point. So actually, it ends about 2 months from now. It ends March the 30th. So that's 2 months, but I can't do challenges there because I already sold Y in that video. So yeah, that's making me think a bit more to get GG Sport because y'all already paid for it. But if it's just straight up too unplayable to get, and it's not going to be fun for anyone, me doing videos on it, because it's not fun to play, and then y'all watching those videos because, well, they're not as fun, then probably not. But I'll react to this and see about it. This particular video is on GG Planet by a GG Planet member and on YouTube. The member is also on YouTube. So I will link the video from YouTube in the description, but it's also on GG Planet if you want to see it there. And it's gotten quite popular on GG Planet. It already has, I think as of the time of recording, about 16 or so likes. I watched the first few seconds of it, but I figured because it is so popular that I would save it and react to it the first time watching it. Because it's gotten some other reactions as well of that. Well, there's a whole thread on GG Planet for it. The penalty system is still a piece of, and then the word is censored. So y'all can put piece of whatever y'all want there, but I'll say this, I'll put a piece of mind to this. Probably bad pun. In fact, that's definitely a bad pun, but there's no denying that it's also definitely bad penalty system beforehand, so maybe it got better. Let's review it and quit being awkward and such, because awkward videos may continue in the future if I get GG Sport. We'll see on that. So this is called GG Sport 1.55 Racecraft Guide. Again, this is the YouTuber who did it, who's also on GG Planet. Link in the description and all that. So let's get into it. GG Sport is a no-contact sport. I mean, GG Sport as a whole, it's kind of hard to say because there's many aspects of it, but I think the aspect that's shown in this video, which seems to be weekly races / FIA stuff, yeah, in a perfect world, it's supposed to be no contact. Yeah, I would say that is true in what this video was showing, yes. The previous penalty system where there just straight up wasn't penalties for contact, that definitely wasn't true, but in a perfect world, yeah, should be true. Continuing on. Absolutely no contact allowed. No contact there. Pretty clean. I don't even know what that was, folks. I don't even think the cars made contact. I didn't hear any contact, and even if they did, I would say if anything, it was the car that's ahead now that initially was behind that would have been slightly at fault. But really it wasn't, because it still made the turn fine, and there was so little, if any, contact there for it to be worth a penalty, but guess what? It was still a penalty. What's weird to me is I thought, at least of the last few months, that they told you what the penalty is for, and it doesn't say what the penalty is for, so I have a video of that as well, where sometimes it just seems like they're supposed to say what the penalty is for, but sometimes they just straight up don't, which means they will give you penalties for literally no reason whatsoever. The last iteration of the penalty system didn't really do this because it didn't really have penalties. But now it seems like that's back, folks. Seems like that's back. No explanation given of why that penalty happened, even though they're supposed to give explanations now. So anyway, unless you're overtaking. So, penalty for doing nothing wrong, overtaking, there is some contact. Not too hard a contact, but there was a bit, but there's also no penalty. That wasn't major contact, but I'd say that's probably deserving about half a second penalty, because as far as I could tell, it was on purpose, but it wasn't major. It was sort of like a NASCAR style bump and run, but this ain't supposed to be NASCAR. I'd say half a second penalty is fair there, but no penalty given. The one passing is always right. It's looking like it so far, really, because if you think about the previous clip, the one that passed was the one that started in the back. Drove in hard, minimal contact, ended up ahead. But the car that stayed on the outside the whole time that did nothing wrong got the penalty. This time, the car that passed was, again, behind. Used a bit of contact and got around. Also no penalty, so yeah, I guess that's right, for better or worse. So far, it sort of kind of seems like worse. And there's some retaliation. And there's a penalty. I was kind of saying, and there's some retaliation and not all that loud, because I was kind of thinking for a minute there, the game's still allowing sort of kind of eye for an eye racing, which I don't mind. There's a bit of contact to begin with the driver that got the penalty later on, but then the driver that's now ahead made a bit of contact back and didn't get a penalty. So if both drivers don't get a penalty and there's a bit of contact between them both, then I mean that's fairly equal. They both coming at relatively the same, minor contact between each of them, but nothing major, and again, sort of kind of a NASCAR style bump and run will probably be fine. And that sport, GT sport, again, different, but nonetheless, there's a penalty. And that's straight up unfair. If one driver makes contact with another driver, the driver that makes the contact on purpose to get the penalty. But the first time that didn't happen, but the second time the penalty that was given was to the driver that got hit, not the driver that did the hitting. In my opinion, the fair way of doing it, and I think it's fairly obvious as well, but is the car that initiates contact is the one that gets the penalty if any penalties are given at all. Once again, minor contact, kind of iffy if there should be a penalty, but I'd be fine if there was a small penalty given. And, I mean, while this is still somewhat of a small penalty, it's still a penalty. I've seen half-second penalties, I've seen 1 second penalties, 2, 3, up to like 5 and 10 even. 1 second penalty isn't a race breaker, but still, this driver did nothing wrong the second time around. If there should have been a penalty, it should have been the first time around. But yet again, it still doesn't actually say what the penalty's for. So, have they just quit doing that? I mean, again, I ain't racing, so leave that in the description or on GT Planet or library or whatever. Have they just quit saying what the penalties are for now, which is lazy on PD's part because they've already implemented that in the past? So, here's this. The car behind has the right-of-way. So far, again, that seems to be true for, again, better or worse. Granted, the car behind has the right-of-way should alleviate brake checking, theoretically, and that's a good thing, but there should be nothing that's where it's always or never. Granted, this doesn't say always, it just says the car behind has the right-of-way, but I assume it's implying always because it's been every clip so far. Let's watch this clip, though, to see if it continues. Yeah, that was actually quite minor contact, but in the area that it happened, in the hardest turn of the track that's famous for the hard turn, I mean, yeah, that's... Even though there wasn't too much contact there, it still definitely hurt the driver that's in the sand here, obviously, because they're in the sand. So, even though it was minor, I'd still say that car deserves... This car was more negatively affected than the previous clip, but I'd still say, yet again, another half second of penalty. Because this one I'll go back, probably, be best. Slight contact there. Slight contact there. I don't even know if any of that was necessarily intentional, because it looked like the driver who was initially on the left didn't have any more room on the track. So, I mean, maybe that driver should have slowed down a bit more and let the car on the outside go by, because the car on the outside might have not made that turn anyway. But nonetheless, the car that's being featured here, the one wrecking as well, so it definitely got the worst of that. Again, as I've said in some videos that I made, the one that got pretty popular as well, the specialitating the Flawful penalty system. I don't care how much someone wrecks because of a mistake they make, but if I cause them to make a mistake, then that's kind of a gray area. And this would be this clip. Should a driver get penalized more if the other driver makes a bigger mistake because of the minor contact? I would say, tentatively speaking, yes, but then people would exploit it. They'd essentially do what would be in the NBA equivalent of flopping, or basketball in general. Which flopping is faking contact to attempt to draw a foul. I could see that very much being done in GG Sport. People faking, spinning out, wrecking and stuff to draw a penalty on the other driver. So it's still quite a gray area, but I think at the very least that other driver, not the one that wrecked, the driver that had the bit of contact, should at least get a half-second or so penalty. Maybe more, but at least half-second. From what I can tell, there was no penalty there. But I will say this, at least the driver that did wreck didn't get the penalty this time. In the first clip, the driver that got wrecked did get the penalty, so I'll say this, I've seen the penalty system worse, but it's still not at all good at this point. And at this point in the video, it's a bit over half. So now, this is the correct way to pass. This car head still has a penalty, but I assume it's unrelated given how the clip was cropped. So we'll assume that driver's penalty is irrelevant to the clip. And so the clip. Okay, that's a bit shady there. And there's no penalty given for that. And the other driver messed up as well. Like, got messed up from it. Like, I will say this. The driver with the penalty there cuts in front kind of at a late point. But they had momentum and they had room. So I wouldn't necessarily fault that driver for doing it. Though that is a risky move that that driver made. Not a dirty move, but a risky move. No, I still think the driver with the HUD, like the one that's showcasing in the clip, essentially, braked a little bit late there. But again, this driver made sort of bold move. Not dirty, but bold, so. And I think the initial hit maybe could be forgiven, but the second hit not as much. Because it didn't go back for some reason. This hit can maybe be forgiven because there wasn't too much time to react, but this one's a bit much because look where the contact is made relative to the apex of turn. I mean, you can barely even see the apex of turn. This driver could have definitely turned in more, and then that contact wouldn't have happened. That contact, I would say maybe half second of penalty, but could also be considered a racing incident there. But this contact, yeah, this definitely be a penalty. And that driver lost a spot from that too. So I would say the first incident, maybe penalty. Second incident, maybe 2 to 3 second penalty for that. And there was no penalty given. So as of now, like was said in the beginning part of the video, is the driver behind seems to be right. The person trying to make the pass from behind is right. Again, I haven't seen any problems with brake checking in this video, I'll say that, but still, this isn't the way the penalty system should be fixed. It's just making one driver always right, because then people will figure out how to manipulate it, and essentially everything's just going to become a dive bomb fest. So, getting punted deserves a penalty. It's kind of already sounds like it's going to be the driver getting hit, and the one that gets wrecked is the one that gets a penalty from how that sounds. Oh, great. And this one does give a showing what it's for. Seriously? Seriously. Forced another car off the track when it's literally the opposite. This car got forced off the track by a very much blatant dive bomb. The car that did the dive bomb there, that should be a 10-second penalty because that was extremely blatant and targeted. Like another sports equivalent, I kind of already said the word, that car that did the punt should get a targeting penalty of what would be in football. And a targeting penalty in football means they're just straight up out of the game. They're done. If it's in the second half of the game, they're also missed the first half of the next game. So the driver that did that, I wouldn't even mind if they just straight up get kicked out of the race because it was extremely blatant. And there was no other cars around either to say that they got pushed into that amount of speed. Even if they did get pushed in that amount of speed, they should still try to swerve out of the way or something. But yeah, the driver that did the punting should get a massive penalty to just straight up kicked out of the race. The driver that got wrecked definitely shouldn't get penalized, and definitely not for this reason. The weirdest part to me is why does sometimes it say what the penalty is for and sometimes it doesn't? And the time that it does say what the penalty is for, it's literally 180, like a complete opposite wrong. Like this term and penalties should go to the other driver. And frankly, should be a larger penalty to the other driver as well. At this point, I'm not buying GG Sport, that's for sure. Again, if y'all really want to see it, I can. But do y'all really want to see this? Though, I don't. If y'all want me to, I'll do it. But I'll say this, I'm going to be the dive bomb R more times than I'm going to be the dive bomb E. I'll say that without a shadow of a doubt. But yeah, this is just straight up wrong in every way, shape, and form. The driver that did the punting should maybe even be out of the race, but instead they get the position gained with no penalty. And the driver that got wrecked gets a penalty described the way that the driver that wrecked them, what they did and what they should get a penalty for. But it's described for the driver that got wrecked. That's just straight up stupid, not gonna lie. I don't want to go back to GT Sport if it's this bad. That's for sure. Safest way to overtake. Great. Seriously? Oh. Safest way to overtake is this blatant eyeball. Oh, wonderful. And I bet that car in front got the penalty as well. Try to keep it clean. Yeah, definitely. Even through the rules, reward dirty driving. Yeah. So the safest way to overtake now is a blatant dive bomb. And I bet the car that got dive bombed got a penalty from that as well. Because it showed in the last clip, that seems to be what's happening. The first clips were fairly minor contact, so there's somewhat of a gray area in them, but as the video progressed, it became more and more obvious that, yeah, the GT Sport penalty system is still downright terrible. Is it the worst I have ever seen? The last two clips are as bad as anything I've ever seen, but there's still that one clip on my channel of like 40 straight seconds of downright exact opposite of what should happen. I'm not saying that can't happen in this penalty system, but I haven't seen it happen yet. Like, these last two clips were just one incident. The clip on my channel that, if I remember, I'll link in the description, was like 4 different clips in a sequence of like 40 seconds or something. But yeah, this is definitely one of the worst iterations of the penalty system I've ever seen. And still goes back to the main reason I boycotted to begin with, of the driver at fault gets penalized. I'm not paying for someone else's mistake, period. I'm not doing that. I haven't done that. The time that the game attempted to force me to do that, I just quit playing the game. So, yeah, again, if y'all really want me to get GG Sport, I can now from y'all donations on library. But essentially, I'd be getting GG Sport just to rip on it more. Not saying that I ain't gonna do that. Again, if y'all want me to, I can. But if y'all prefer me to get something else, leave it in the comments of what else that y'all want me to get. There's plenty of games out there. I still don't have a Assetto Corsa game. I already have Project Cars 2. I can do more videos on that game, though I ain't too good at it. And there's something that may end up being a video in the future. I may even contact my college about it because they've seemed to be ramping up on it as they should for as big of a cause as they are. The University of Kentucky has an esports program now. They're actually doing renovations to the student center to add an esports arena. Maybe, if I can figure it out, there could be esports in the University of Kentucky involving a racing simulator. I ain't gonna say if it's GG Sport or not, but I'd say that'd be the most likely one. iRacing, though, better is too expensive, especially for college that's public. Project Cars 2 is the better game, but it's not as popular of a game, so probably not. And the Xbox people can't play with the PlayStation people for that, so that would be not so good there. So I'd assume if I got esports at UK involving a racing simulator, it would be GG Sport, but we'll see about that in the future. I may do its own video depending on how things progress. I'll say this, University of Kentucky does have a Twitch esports channel now. I don't like Twitch very much. They're straight up elitist and let some people get away with stuff that others can't. But nonetheless, UK is there, so again, if I have a lot to remember the link in the description. I will try to remember the link UK's channel in the description because who knows, maybe if everything goes perfectly right, I'll be on there someday. Certainly not promising anything, but I've also promised before that I wasn't exactly going to be doing videos like this, but then y'all donated on library and that helped a whole heck of a heap. So miracles can happen, but at this point, GG Sport needs a straight up miracle to become good. PD can't get the penalty system right. I would have liked it if they just stayed giving up on it, frankly. But they didn't. And it's probably worse than the previous iteration. That iteration being them not doing anything. This doesn't even seem like a straight up new iteration. Honestly, this just seems like an old iteration, the one I boycotted. Having the driver at fault get the penalty more time than not. I'll say this again, I haven't seen any problems with brake checking, because like it said at the beginning of the video, the driver behind seems to be the one that's right, so that's one step forward and then 1 mile back. One step forward of no brake checking, but 1 mile back, well, someone can dive bomb from 1 mile back and get away with it. So, there you have it, folks. GG Sports penalty system is still terrible. Is it the worst ever? Hard to say, but it kind of looks like the same system as the worst ever. So yeah, there's no point in me getting GG Sport unless y'all really, really want me to. Because I'd probably just be boycotting it if I had the game working now anyway. So let's finish up the last little bit of this clip and hopefully go out with something a bit more positive. The positive being that driver's SR went up, but remember that driver's SR went up after they dive bombed. Yeah, this actually might be the worst penalty system ever, because even the one that I boycotted, they at least noticed something was wrong and gave a negative SR. Again, the Flawful penalty system video. Ugh. If this is truly the worst iteration of the penalty system this late in the game, even after PD showed signs of giving up anyway, then there's no point in going back, folks. Unless y'all really want me to. And again, I very much thank y'all for supporting me on library, and seems like by the way that y'all are donating, y'all want me to do more Drive Club videos, and I'm perfectly fine with that. That'll come in the future, that's for sure. I don't know exactly when, but in the future. And yeah, more videos in general could very well be worth a yeehaw, but if there ain't gonna be more videos in GG Sport, I don't know how many more videos in general there will be. So, GG Sport certainly ain't worth a yeehaw right now, though. That's for sure.